going after the industry by saying it's like almost like a RICO or mafia tactic, like where we're all pooling money, in an illegal practice so that anyone affiliated in any way or fashion could be held liable. And they're just trying to scare people away from a growing industry. But, it's sad when I still see politicians or judges even that were supposed to do scientific review of the product of cannabis come back and say, oh, there's no medical evidence that this is has any medical value, or no evidence that there's medical value to this. And you got to wonder who's paid that judge off. I mean, there's really no way about it otherwise. I mean, it can't be that blind to the reality that there's so many thousands of studies and so many people getting benefit. You see, I mean, on my Facebook timeline, one after the other is a kid before cannabis, a kid after one treatment of cannabis, and they're a different person, seizure disorders and all these other things. So hopefully the money is going to influence change, and then as a result, the people will get medicine and get a safe, natural product that they should never have been excluded from having in the first place. And, I look at other tax revenue going to Colorado and other states, and that's got to be appealing. I always refer back to the lotto. The lotto is I'm surprised there's more money not going into schools and infrastructure from the lotto. I thought that was the whole purpose of the lotto. But I don't think that money is being shared evenly or dispersed properly. Hopefully, as cannabis money continues to grow and revenues from it and taxes and all that come in and continue to increase, we'll see it going to good use. And I think they're doing that in Colorado. They're giving money back to people. They're putting money to schools. They're putting money to infrastructure. And this is why this plan can change the planet, change our country, change our economy. It's really great.
Yep, agreed.
So, well, I really appreciate what you're doing. I know sometimes it's some of those lesser noticed things. That's why I wanted to have you on and bring it to people's attention that there is a secure structure in place, that people are protected both from a business to business as well as business to consumer, that these cannabis conferences aren't freewheeling stoners running around getting everyone high. There's real business being done with real control, real security. And again, when you testify, when you said they're not even the same kind of conferences. They're friendly. They're warm. Let's do business together. Let's enjoy life a little bit more. They're not the typical, I think your biggest concern may be a health concern that might happen, but it's great work what you're doing. I really appreciate you taking the time today, being on my show, and look forward to catching up with you at a trade show or just hanging out maybe in Vegas at some time soon. So always good to talk to you, Mike. Thanks again for being on my show. Yeah, what's a website if they want to look more about your company or learn more about your services?
Sure. The website is www.security-M like Mike, P like Paul, S like Sam, I like Ida.com. So security-mpsi.com. It's got all our services and so forth on there. And we're in several states, and I'm excited to say that we just opened up Maryland and Illinois, which are two budding, pun intended, states that are going to come online and be huge in this business. So we're pretty happy about that. And it was a pleasure to be on. It's always good to talk to you, and obviously I see you at several of these functions, and I will look forward to seeing you again soon.
All right, brother. You be well. All the best. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep people safe out there, and it's a real pleasure. This is Doc Rob. Again, we started with Burning Man because culture was shifted. It's a whole different environment there. It's a new civilization. My hope is that as we evolve, we get plant-based therapeutics back as a primary way of healing. When we start talking about real people, real health, real life, we take some of this corporate politics out of the play, and we start making changes in our society. I think that's what we're all about here. When we live a little better today than we did yesterday, when we aim for a better tomorrow than we are today, that's all we can ask for. So I appreciate everyone listening, sharing this podcast, telling your friends and family. We're on iHeartRadio. Just look for Concierge for Better Living. Look on the social media on Facebook. Send me questions, FYI@DocRob.com. Tweet me at DocRob if you have questions or subjects you want me to cover, or anyone that you want me to have on as a guest. It's my pleasure. Love this stuff. This is Doc Rob wishing you all the best in health and happiness at Concierge for Better Living, CannabisRadio.com.
The opinions expressed on this CannabisRadio.com program are those of the guests and hosts and do not necessarily reflect those of the staff and management of CannabisRadio.com. Any rebroadcast or redistribution without proper consent of CannabisRadio.com is prohibited. Puff, puff, share it with a friend. CannabisRadio.com.
BBC News with Neil Nunes. Britain says there's a significant possibility that an explosive device brought down the Russian airliner, which crashed in Egypt on Saturday. It has suspended all flights to the resort of Sharm el-Sheikh, where the plane took off. Egypt says the British action is unwarranted and will have catastrophic consequences for millions of Egyptians who rely on tourism for a living. China's President Xi Jinping is beginning a 2-day visit to Vietnam. He's expected to receive a high-profile welcome, although his visit comes at a time of tensions between the two countries over disputed territory in the South China Sea. Taiwan's President Ma Ying-jeou has said he hopes that his historic meeting with the Chinese president at the weekend will help reduce hostilities between the two sides. The talks in Singapore will be the first such meeting since Taiwan split from the mainland at the end of the Chinese Civil War in 1949. The Iranian President Hassan Rouhani has questioned the arrest of several journalists on Tuesday. He has urged the authorities not to make baseless arrests and fabricate a case. Mexico's Supreme Court has voted in favor of allowing a group of activists to grow and distribute marijuana for their personal use. The ruling applies only to the 4 people who brought the case, but experts say it could pave the way for marijuana to be legalized. Investigators say a U.S. police officer hailed as a hero killed in the line of duty, in fact, took his own life. They say Charles Klinowitz staged his death because he was about to be exposed for embezzling public funds. The French historian and philosopher René Girard has died in the United States at the age of 91. He began his career as a literary theorist, but became interested in a broad range of subjects, in particular the causes of human conflict and the role of imitation plays in people's behavior. BBC News.
Hello. Ganjapreneur.com, your guide to the cannabis business world. Ganjapreneur.com is a comprehensive resource for cannabis professionals and entrepreneurs. Download the Ganjapreneur app on your smartphone or tablet to catch up on cannabis industry news, scroll through our daily job listings, and learn about successful cannabis companies, executives, and investors. Ganjapreneur.com, helping Ganjapreneurs grow.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Kate Fisher. British Prime Minister David Cameron will hold talks with Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on Thursday at Downing Street, just a day after the UK halted all flights into the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh amid security concerns. British officials now say there is a significant possibility that an explosive device brought down the Russian Metrojet plane that crashed in the Sinai on Saturday, killing all 224 people on board. From London, Catherine Drew reports.
The move to halt all UK flights to Sharm el-Sheikh, a favourite with British tourists, is a significant blow to Egypt's vital tourism industry and an embarrassment for the Egyptian authorities. All flights were suspended after a team of British security experts analysed security at the airport Wednesday, prompting the government to advise against all but essential travel through the airport. Travel advice for the region, though, has not changed. This is likely to dominate talks at Downing Street as the two leaders meet to discuss security concerns relating to Islamic State militants and the situation in Syria and Iraq. The talks have been criticised by human rights campaigners who describe President Sisi as a dictator who has violently cracked down on dissent.
US intelligence sources are also saying that they believe a bomb planted by ISIS or an affiliate may have been responsible for downing the flight. In Washington, here's Kevin McAleese.
The US position that Islamic extremists may have planted a bomb on the aircraft echoed earlier analysis from the United Kingdom. An unidentified source told CNN a device may have been planted in luggage or somewhere on the plane. However, US State Department spokesman John Kirby, when pressed on who or what was responsible for the crash, insisted the US government would not be rushed to judgment.
Everybody would like to have answers as soon as possible, most especially the families that are grieving. But the investigators are still at it, and we got to give them the time and the space to do their job.
This new assessment came after the White House addressed concerns over US citizens travelling to the region, making it clear that US airliners did not operate over the area affected by Saturday's air disaster.
US Defence Secretary Ashton Carter and his Malaysian counterpart are planning to sail aboard a US warship that has been patrolling in disputed waters of the South China Sea. The move underscores regional tensions over China's territorial claims there. Daniel Wrenches reports from Washington.
Ashton Carter and the Malaysian Defence Minister Hishamuddin Hussein will sail on board the nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, the USS Theodore Roosevelt, on Thursday. It follows on directly from a meeting of regional defence ministers in Malaysia in which differences appeared over China's maritime territorial claims. US warships recently sailed within disputed waters.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSM. Mexico's Supreme Court has ruled that people should have the right to grow marijuana for personal use. The decision doesn't change the current law, but it does lay the groundwork for legal changes in the future. Andrea Arenas reports.
Today's ruling could start a wave of legal actions aimed at relaxing legislation against people who want to grow marijuana for personal consumption, as well as those who need to use the plant for medicinal purposes. The Supreme Court took on this case as a result of an appeal filed by a marijuana advocacy group. The group had previously been denied its request to grow the plant for recreational purposes. Experts say the ruling may lead to a reduction in drug-related violence in Mexico, where the illegal drug trade is ruled by gangs. Andrea Arenas, Washington.
Facebook has released earnings for the third quarter, announcing that over 1 billion people use the social media site every day. And with revenue also beating Wall Street estimates, Facebook's founder and CEO Mark Zuckerberg called it a good quarter. William Denslow has more from New York.
Last month, Facebook announced it would invest more in its family of apps, including WhatsApp, Messenger and Instagram, to boost advertising revenue. And that investment appears to be paying off. Ad revenue was up at $4.3 billion this quarter, especially boosted by Facebook's video advertising. Thanks to spending on projects like virtual reality, costs and expenses for Facebook were up at 68% from last year. But total revenue was still up 41% at $4.5 billion. Monthly active user growth was also up 14% from last year, with over 1.5 billion people using the site each month, with over 1 billion people now logging on each day. William Denslow, New York.
And that's the latest feature story news. Kate Fisher reporting.
Keep your cannabis cravings under control. Feed your mind with CannabisRadio.com.
From the Sky News Centre at 4, all flights to Sharm el-Sheikh have been suspended amid fears a plane which crashed in Egypt on Saturday was brought down by a bomb. The government is now advising against all but essential travel through the resort's airport. Egypt's foreign minister has described the decision as premature and unwarranted, but the Foreign Secretary Philip Hammond stands by it.
With respect to him, he hasn't seen all the information that we have, and while we regard the Egyptians as very important partners, we want to work with them. When we see something which we believe represents a threat to British nationals, we have to act on it.
Doctors have started being balloted for strike action a day after the promise of a pay rise from the Health Secretary. Jeremy Hunt said some junior doctors in England would get an 11% increase in basic pay. Unions have criticised the offer as fundamentally flawed. Almost half of young people living at home say their parents know only some of what they do online. 11% told the study for Barnardo's that their parents understood nothing about their online activity. Millions of households are apparently still stuck on expensive energy tariffs despite new rules forcing suppliers to display their cheapest prices. Government figures show only around 10% of people switched last year. Alex Neal from the consumer group Which thinks it needs to be made easier.
It's completely bamboozling for customers and just takes too long, and the various parties that you need to speak to, and the worry for customers that actually they might end up either owing somebody some money or just simply having the gas or electricity cut off.
National Grid has, for the first time, forced power companies to cut usage to maintain supplies. It's also ordered them to increase the production of power following what it calls multiple plant breakdowns. In sport, Chelsea manager Jose Mourinho got the win he badly needed as his side beat Dynamo Kiev 2-1 in the Champions League. It wasn't such a good night for Arsenal. They were thrashed 5-1 by Bayern Munich. That leaves them bottom of Group F. That's the latest. I'm Emma Jones.
Your connection to quality cannabis insurance services is spelled Kaerca.